Hello, everybody. Welcome to our debate. We're so glad to have you all here. Yes, please give me some applause. We're going to have a wonderful evening. We have our 3 gubernatorial candidates here tonight and some wonderful moderators down here in the front. We're going to be asking a lot of great questions, finding out more about our candidates, and getting really excited about our upcoming election. Of course, we have the August 4th primary. You're here to decide who you might be voting for in that election. But we've got a long road to November. We've got a lot to achieve in Tennessee this year, and we're really excited because we're the party that's going to do it. So thank you very much. I want to say a quick couple words. Please give Chair Remus and his family some warm wishes. They are recovering from COVID in their household, but we are so healthy and safe here. We all have tested, and we're glad to have you in this auditorium, and we're going to get started. So first, I'm going to pass it off to our wonderful lead moderator, Harriet Wallace, who's going to do a quick introduction on our moderators and our candidates.
Thank you so much for having me tonight and for having all of us. As it's been shared, this is an important election coming up, and I'm so sorry that my back is to you all. It's awkward, but know that there's a lot of love up here, okay? We're going to have fun tonight. I am obviously not doing this by myself, and I'm so excited to have these 2 amazing people with me. I am joined tonight by 2 folks whose names are known across the state in politics. First, to my right is Holly McCall, a political analyst. Give her some love. Holly is a political analyst who I've known for some time, and I love working with her. She's also editor-in-chief of the Tennessee Outlook, a watchdog media outlet that investigates and exposes the relationships between politics, people, and policy. Holly, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We also have with us to my left, Mr. Justin Canoe. He is co-founder. Justin is co-founder of the Tennessee Holler, a digital media outlet with hubs around the state that always yells the truth about what's happening in our state where people and politics are involved. So thank you so much, Justin, for joining us tonight. And for the folks that you all have been waiting to hear from tonight, our candidates, if they could come on out. We are joined tonight by Dr. Jason Martin of Nashville. Dr. Carnita Atwater of Memphis. You bring the noise, Dr. Atwater, I guess. And we've got Councilman J.B. Smiley Jr. of Memphis. Welcome tonight, candidates. For those who are in the audience, please feel free to share with those who are not here tonight that tonight's debate is being streamed on all of the TNDP's social media platforms, as well as YouTube. And for our audience, there is a poll that we would like for you to complete. It will be live from 8 to 8:30. We want to know who you think won tonight's debate, okay? You get a chance to vote. We ask that you use the QR code on the paper that you were given to access that poll. Again, it'll be live from 8 to 8:30. Now to our candidates. Welcome. I'm going to go over the rules with you before we get started. The audience has written questions for you all on note cards, which you will hear towards the end of the forum. Co-moderators Holly and Justin, they have spent a lot of time preparing questions for you. They will pose those questions to you. Each of you will have 90 seconds to respond to the moderator questions. My timekeeper, he's somewhere around, he's coming up here in just a second. Our timekeeper will notify you of how much time you have left to answer, and I will be supporting him in making sure you wrap your answer up. And then our moderators can ask you a follow-up question to your answer, in which you will have 30 seconds to respond to their follow-up question. If you would like to rebut a candidate's comment, you absolutely can. You will have 30 seconds to do so. Each of you at the end will have 60 seconds to offer a closing remark. Should a candidate address another candidate during their closing specifically at that time, that candidate will have 60 seconds to rebut their closing argument. and then that will be it. Again, I will be repeating this throughout as a reminder. I know it is a lot of information, right? We're now going to get started with our moderator questions. First, Justin Canoe has questions for you in the area of education and child safety. Justin.
Okay, hi guys, how are you? Excuse me. So about education, privatization of our underfunded schools is obviously Governor Lee's priority. Today, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of letting taxpayer dollars go to private religious schools. Some see Lee's TISA plan as the voucherization of our education system. He's probably been looking forward to this. As governor, I'll start with you, JB. As governor, will you stand with public schools? Do you feel taxpayer dollars going to private religious schools blurs the line between church and state? And also, since Lee wants to flood Tennessee with charter schools, do you consider charter schools to be public schools?
Thank you for the question. First of all, just thank you all for being here. It's so important, so good to see you all. Well, as much as I can with the light shining in my face. But we all know that Governor Bill Lee is a walking disaster. He messes up everything he touches, especially when it comes to education. He's attempting to privatize our public schools, which is not what we want, which is not what we are intended to do with public dollars. First of all, we need to be immediately vetoing any piece of legislation that allows public dollars to go into private schools. We are not for that. But more specifically, as it relates to TISA, this specific system is designed to do exactly the same thing that voucher bills are designed to do, which is send our dollars to private schools. So as my administration, we will stand against sending public dollars to private schools because that is not what's best for every person, every student that calls Tennessee home.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent.
Dr. Atwater, you want me to repeat the question?
It was a lot.
That's you?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we picked
There's
order.
an order? Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the question. So here's the deal. Governor Lee has been a disaster when it comes to public education. He's attacked the institution at every opportunity that he's been given. First of all, he created a crisis by participating in underfunding public education really for decades, certainly in his administration. You know, we had 11,000 unfunded teacher positions. We were 46th in the nation when it came to funding public education. So then he used that disaster, which was self-inflicted, to blame the teachers and then use that crisis to bring in TISA, which is going to be a further disaster for public education in the state of Tennessee. Let's talk about a lot of different angles of TISA. First of all, the process, it was jammed through in the middle of a pandemic and during the high holiday season with very little input. There was not conversation with the other side politically about what the best options were for our children. And then, you know, we've put into place a policy that's going to rob schools and school districts of local control and create a property tax bomb for a couple of years from now that's going to go off and hurt less advantaged communities. So TISA's wrong. Specifically with respect to the charter school issue, you know, Governor Lee, just like he's tried to pass illegal voucher programs to defund public education, is trying to weaken the institution by bringing in this group, Hillsdale, to focus on ideology rather than reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is what we expect our schools to deliver.
Atwater.
Thank you for the invite. And happy 110th anniversary TSU. As an educator, I think that we have to go deeper than TISA. I think that the governor, he's trying to go back and desensitize and segregate our school system. And I think that before we have any program, we need to take into consideration not only the educational system, but also poverty and underserved children. Now, in order to be successful in any program, voucher or the TISA program, and I'm totally against voucher program because they have a history of failing. I'm for public schools because our school work, and public school is a fundamental civil right, and I'm for the public school. I want to talk about the holistic approach. No matter what program we have in the public school, if you do not address trauma, mental health, mental illness, poverty, homelessness, then we will not have any system that works. So we need to address that even in public schools, mental health in our children, our parents, and our community. Thank you.
Go right into it. All right.
Yeah, one more from the Education and Children's.
This is also related to education. Obviously, top of mind for most people right now is the gun violence situation. Tennessee has 5 of the 65 deadliest cities in the country, and the Senate appears to be inching closer to a bipartisan gun law reform deal. Meanwhile, here in Tennessee, Governor Lee and the supermajority have been focused on loosening gun laws, which is why 8 of the 10 states with the highest firearm death rates are red states. What can you do as governor to help save lives and address gun violence? And since we know the supermajority will try to arm teachers, which will likely make our teacher shortage problem even worse, what would your position be as governor on arming teachers, and what can you do to address that issue? Starting with you again, JB.
Okay, so first of all, I find it pretty hypocritical that our General Assembly would attempt to arm teachers when they don't even trust them to teach the things that they went to school to do, which is educate our young people. But in addition to that, there are some things that we can do. Common sense gun law, common sense gun reforms. We can implement universal background checks. We can immediately ban assault rifles. We can also issue red flag laws that put people in a better position. And another thing, if I want to get behind a automobile, I need a driver's license. But for some reason, our General Assembly believes that to carry a firearm, we do not need a permit. I'm in the position that if I want to own a firearm, folks need to have some trainings, a level of understanding so that they can lawfully and truly utilize those weapons in the way that they should be utilized, which is to keep people safe, not to cause havoc in our communities. Thank you.
Dr. Martin?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying that I absolutely oppose arming teachers in public schools or in any school, right? That more guns around our children is not the answer. Let's talk about things in Tennessee that are prohibited currently, things that you cannot buy. You can't buy a sawed-off shotgun. You can't buy a machine gun. You can't even have brass knuckles in the state of Tennessee. But you can be 18 years old and go out and buy an AR without a permit, without a background check. That's not right. That's not who we are. I want to look at Bill Lee and say, what are you thinking? He's radical on guns. The General Assembly is radical on guns. Look at what they did with permitless carry. They jammed it through, right? They took away decades-long practice of having a background check and a basic safety competence to have a concealed weapon in public spaces. I know if I've got someone around my family at a restaurant or around your family, I want to make sure that that person has had a background check and a safety check if they're going to have a firearm in our proximity. It's common sense, but common sense has left them, and we need to hold them accountable this election.
Dr. Atwater?
If I become governor, I would rescind the permit bill day one. But I think we have to look at the holistic approach. And if I was governor, I would implement a comprehensive crime prevention plan. And that plan would entail working with all the stakeholders in the community. In order for you to address school violence, you would have to address parenting, gang affiliation, you would have to address poverty, you would have to address economic development. So this is no simple answer. We cannot just talk about school violence and not incorporate the community in which the children come from, that environment, and the teenagers. Most people that's committing a crime as far as mass shooting are teenagers, are young people. So we have to do something when it comes to mental health with those people and incorporating a holistic plan in the school system if we're going to be successful.
Thank you, candidates. Our next topic is government operations. Holly will be posing those questions to you. We're going to change up the order just a little bit, give y'all a little breathing room. Holly?
Hello, candidates. Thanks for being here tonight.
Oh, right.
I'd like to focus on some of the mechanics of a political campaign to start out with. So Donald Trump won Tennessee with more than 60% in both 2016 and 2020. And a Democrat has not won a statewide race since Governor Philip Bredesen won re-election in 2006. How do you propose to defeat incumbent Bill Lee? And I'd like to talk about some specific strategies because, yeah, I'd like to talk about specific strategies. And Dr. Atwater, we'll start with you, and then Dr. Martin, you will go next, I believe, and Dr. Smiley. I mean, I'm Councilman
I'll take the
Smiley.
doctor.
First of all, I believe in a action plan. And as Democrats, we should have put together a specific community plan, boots on the ground, mobilizing all the Democrats a year ago. Therefore, what we should have done is send out questionnaires so that we can know the people that's going to help us, and also put money back into the community so that we can do flyers or presentation or advertisement to help boots on the ground. So it's hindsight, we have missed the mark when it comes to that. And the only thing I would do now is to go house to house, boots on the ground.
Dr. Martin.
So the first thing I want to tell you is that this race can absolutely be won. You have to believe it right here. You have to believe it right here. We're going to work and make it so. I promise you that's going to happen. And here's how you do it. Everybody on this stage has a compelling story to tell, but you have to move beyond a compelling story and move to what's going to get 400,000 more Tennesseans voting for Democrats next cycle than we did last cycle. And here's how you do it. You do it by first having a vision. And our campaign has been to all 95 counties. We're the only campaign up here that's been to every single county, every single corner of the state. And those weren't just photo ops. Those weren't just stopping to have lunch and take pictures for social media. Those were visits with people, finding out what the issues are on the ground in their localities, and then using that to inform a policy platform that is inclusive, that focuses on issues that apply to red Tennessee and blue Tennessee. I'm talking about things like access to education, healthcare, great infrastructure for everyone. And so that's how you win, by focusing on issues that are appealing across the state. The other thing you have to do is you have to have a network. And that's another part of that 95 county tour. We've met with county party chairs. We've met with church groups and civic organizations in every single county in this state. And we're going to flex those relationships to get more people out at the polls. And you know what? We're not going to cede a single county. Those 80-20 Trump counties, they're hurting right now. Their schools are crumbling. Their hospitals are closing. They're losing businesses because there's no access to healthcare. So we've got to engage them, tell them that our agenda is their agenda. Thank you.
No, I was waiting for somebody to give me.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, thank you. So I didn't just start traveling across the state of Tennessee when I decided to run for governor, because I'm from Tennessee. I've been across this state my entire life. But I'm gonna tell you how you win. And policy ideas are good. A vision is needed. But what's needed more than anything else is someone who understands what it's like to struggle in Tennessee. We have to go every single community. We have to figure out how to get the non-voting base excited about this election. We can nominate someone that we've seen before, or we can do something completely different. I tell people this everywhere I go. We need a different type of candidate to run a different type of race. We need to find out how to get the 1.6 million registered voters who are staying at home during this gubernatorial race excited about this election. And I'll be honest with you, I'm the only candidate on this stage that can go somewhere and get people excited about this election. So you can choose to lose big, or you have an opportunity by voting for J.B. Smiley to have a real shot at success. Thank you.
In the same vein, or in a similar vein, let's assume that you do win in November. Let's just go ahead and assume that you defeat incumbent Governor Bill Lee. So if elected, and Dr. Martin, I'm going to start with you with this. What are your strategies to pass constructive legislation or to defeat harmful legislation, given that there is a legislative supermajority?
So first of all, I'm going to push back against the premise of the question a little bit, because our campaign is working every day to chip away at that supermajority. We're working hard to elevate down ballot races, and that has got to be part of any winning campaign's formula. But here's the deal: you need someone who's going to use the bully pulpit to speak out against the madness that comes through the radical supermajority, and I'm going to absolutely do that. And I am not afraid to use that veto pen. That's what leadership looks like, standing up for what you believe in. Let's look at Governor Bill Lee and what he's done. I mean, recently, the General Assembly, made it a felony to be homeless, right? And so Governor Lee did not think that was the right thing to do, but did not have the political courage to sign it and just let it become law without his signature. That's not leadership. That's blowing in the wind, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at what he did when it came to the Truth in Sentencing bill, which he admitted was a disaster and was not going to be effective. He let it become law without his signature because he blows in the wind. We need someone who's going to stand up for Tennessee, and that's what we're going to do. I want to stand up to that General Assembly.
Councilman Smiley, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. So I don't speak in hypotheticals, y'all, because I've been there and I've done that. The former chair of the Memphis City Council was the fundraising chair for the president, who I won't name, in Shelby County. And people always told me the wheels of government would turn slow. They wondered if Young Progressive could get anything done on the Memphis City Council. My second council meeting, I passed a 5-year infrastructure improvement plan for the city of Memphis with every single member on the council supporting it. That means Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. But in addition to that, when it came time to pass transformative legislation related to criminal justice reform, every single member on the Memphis City Council support. That means Democrats, Republicans, Independents. What we need is someone who's competent, but we also need someone who is compassionate. How do we work with the General Assembly? How do we get things done? The truth of the matter is you have to work behind closed doors to make sure that legislation does not come. But if it does come, you have to have enough courage, enough fortitude to veto that. This governor is weak. He's not right for Tennessee. And if you all vote for me, we'll send him home in November.
Dr. Atwater.
Okay, we're speaking in theory, but let's talk in reality. As a boots on the ground citizen and the next governor, I will work with all Republican and Democratic, Independent, Libertarian, but I am the only one on this platform that Governor Lee has given a prestigious award for working across the table and across the board and across the state of Tennessee. I have had boots on the ground for 25 years. So I don't have to talk about what I'm going to do. I have already done that. I have worked with ex-prisons. I have worked with homeless people. I have worked with domestic violence. I shelter 5 women today as we speak. I have fed 10,000 homeless people, donated 5,000 book bags and school supplies. So you need someone that's connected to the community, someone that have the heart of the community to be the next governor. And I am that person. I am a people's governor. I don't talk the talk, I walk the walk.
Thank you all so much. We are now going to move into the category of medical. And Justin has a medical question for the candidates. Justin.
So we all know Governor Lee has refused to expand Medicaid in Tennessee. That's something that Democrats talk about a lot, despite his predecessor, Bill Haslam, knowing it was the right thing to do. Lee seems entirely unbothered by the billions we're leaving on the table yearly and the hundreds of thousands we leave uninsured, not expanding. We're at the top of medical debt. So the question is, how can we lessen the burden of medical debt in Tennessee? Can Haslam's Insure Tennessee plan be revived, or even Pence's version in Indiana? And also, a new study this week says that universal health care would have saved over $100 billion and 300,000 lives during COVID. As governor, would you be willing to lend your voice to a push for universal health coverage in America, like a Medicare for All type plan? Let's start with Carnita Atwater, Dr. Atwater.
Yes, absolutely. As a former nurse, nursing home administrator, and hospital administrator, I have fought against universal care for about 25 years. Ironically, my opponent here is a physician, but I noticed that the only time I heard of Dr. Martin was with COVID. I have worked with the homeless people that did not have health care, did not have dental care, did not have nutrition. So I have a history of working with the people and working with the community. And so therefore, I find it strange that a physician will be running for governor and talking about what he's going to do. Let's talk about pharmaceutical abuse. Most doctors go along with the pharmaceutical abuse when it comes to drug companies. So I would be totally against pharmaceutical abuse. I think people are paying too much for the medication, and I think that would be incorporated in my universal health plan.
Okay, let's
Quick
go
rebuttal.
to Dr. Martin.
You have 30 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you.
Rebuttal first, go ahead.
Dr. Atwater, you know why you didn't see me on TV talking while I was working? Because I was taking care of folks. I was busy working. Working at Nashville General Hospital, taking care of the least among us, taking care of underserved populations in North Nashville. I was working at Meharry Medical College, the nation's oldest historically Black medical college, training tomorrow's healthcare heroes who are going to go out and pay it forward. That's why you didn't see me on television.
Let's go ahead and stay with you, Dr. Martin, for the question about healthcare. Can Governor Haslam's Insure Tennessee plan be revived? Do you think we can push Medicaid expansion? And also, I'd love an answer on, would you lend your voice to Medicare for All?
Sure. First, Medicaid expansion. I agree with Mayor Fitzhugh that it is the General Assembly's greatest moral failure that we have not taken this step in Tennessee yet. You know, we're leaving over $1 billion a year, like you said, on the table. That's money we could use to push back against some scary trends in the state of Tennessee. I'm talking about being 11th highest in the nation when it comes to infant mortality. I'm talking about being #1 in the nation when it comes to medical bankruptcies per capita. We're breaking our families with medical debt. I'm talking about being #1 in the nation when it comes to hospital closures per capita. And those trends all affect rural Tennessee in particular. So Medicaid expansion would bring those resources that would allow us to cut our unfunded patients by 50%. That's going to bring healthcare resources to these underserved communities, and we need to fight to make it happen. When it comes to Medicare for All, I'm absolutely going to advocate to the federal government to any policy that's going to give more health coverage to citizens across the country. And that's why we need to take these congressional races very seriously. I know we've got gerrymandered maps here in Middle Tennessee that we're dealing with now, but we got to get out and vote and put like-minded folks into office. Thanks.
Councilman Smiley?
800,000. That's the number of uninsured Tennesseans. But I find it hypocritical for this General Assembly to talk a lot about being pro-life, but they refuse to do the #1 thing in the state that would keep people alive and improve health outcomes, which is expand Medicaid. If we expand Medicaid, we're reducing that number to 400,000. But in addition to reducing the number of uninsured Tennesseans to 400,000, we're creating 15,000 jobs. We're connecting people who are experiencing homelessness to access. We're connecting people who are experiencing mental health crisis to access to healthcare. And I think those are the things that we want to do in this state. But right now, this General Assembly doesn't seem to care about people. This General Assembly doesn't seem to care about anything at all but big business and big donors. If they truly cared about people, they would understand it is a moral obligation for them to make sure that folks who are experiencing very low times in their life simply have access to healthcare so that they can truly become productive members of society, healthy, and live very vibrant lives. And as it relates to Medicare for All, absolutely, not only would I lend my voice, just like I do every single day in the city of Memphis, I become a champion behind the closed doors, because the truth of the matter is that's when a lot of things get done. It's not about us all being on TV talking about how we're going to make things happen. It's about being able to sit down with folks in our community who don't look like us, do not agree with us, to make things happen. And that's what I will do.
And now we're going to move to the topic of partisanship and policy. And Holly has a question for you all.
So as a lead-in, you know, we've seen partisan politics become even more divisive since 2016, culminating in the January 6th assault attack on the U.S. Capitol. Our democracy has been attacked. And even just this past weekend in Franklin at a Juneteenth celebration, we saw a group of white nationalists come out and try to disrupt the celebration. So there's an argument that's important to try to lower the temperature and to try to find common ground. But on the other hand, it's also important to call out, speak the truth, and call out these issues. So I'm going to start out with you, Councilman Smiley. Where would you draw that line, and how do you think it's important for a governor to strike that balance?
Well, first things first, I'm as partisan as they come. I think many of you pay attention to, we were recently on the national news for telling Donald Trump he had no place in Memphis because of his rhetoric, because of his divisiveness, and because he simply leaves unpaid bills at every municipality he comes to. But, you know, I'm a nonpartisan elected official. I've never seen a Democratic pothole. I've never seen lights go off in only a Republican community. But what I have seen is the people who elected me needing someone to step up and lead. And that's what we've been able to do. When I was elected to the Memphis City Council, I had a meeting with every single member of our body. We didn't talk about anything but so that I can get to understand them as people. If we truly want to get to a place in which we can work together, get meaningful legislation done, we have to take that approach, the approach that's commonalities, the approach that brings us to common ground, the approach that makes sure that effective legislation gets put forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Atwater.
I think the nature of our government right now, I don't think we can compromise right now. And I believe in speaking truth to power. I think that until we address systemic racism in the state of Tennessee, we're not going forward. And so therefore, I'm going to be realistic about it until the Republican want to come and sit at the table, we can move forward. So I'm going to address them head on. I think racism is wrong across the board. And if they want to continue to practice systemic racism and discriminatory action, then I would have to address that by passing certain bills, diversity bills. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Martin.
So as I reflect on this question, I think about my experience as a critical care doctor, as a physician, working with people who are going through the worst moments of their life. Those moments are often filled with emotion and bluster and frustration as they're, dealing with these healthcare situations. And it's my job to help manage that, recognize it, validate it, but contain it, and then start working on solutions for the patient. And look, as I've traveled, that's what I have to do as governor as well. The governor has a responsibility to turn down the rhetoric, turn down the volume, and try to get things done for the people of Tennessee. At one of our previous forums, I was asked which Republican leader I would be most excited to work with. And I said, Speaker Cameron Sexton. And a wave of just like went across the room. But here's the deal. That is what our people expect of us. They expect of us to get elected and go to work and serve them, not the political parties. They expect us to go and fight for the values they sent us there for: healthcare, education, infrastructure. They expect us to take care of people and not play political games with their lives.
Thank you all.
All right, candidates, we are a little more than halfway through tonight's debate. We discussed some topical areas. Now we're going to move into a bit of a scramble where our moderators will be able to pick whichever question that they would like. So get ready. I'm going to turn it over to Justin, who will ask his scramble question, and then we'll come to Holly for hers. You all will have 60 seconds to answer this question.
So I just want to ask about transparency a little bit. Phil Williams did an expose about the way money works to oil the machine at the Capitol. We saw bills pushed specifically on behalf of companies looking for contracts, that kind of thing. And his education funding haul was like flypaper for lobbyists. How will your campaign administration be different when it comes to lobbyists getting their way with your priorities? And what can you do to bring some transparency to the process so people can have a little more faith in their government? Let's go with you, Councilman Smiley.
Governor Bill Lee operates this way: big business and big donors. We wonder why there are so many no bid contracts given out, because he doesn't care about being transparent, because he's not responsive to your needs. He's responsive to those big donors that are continue lining his pockets. But my administration will be completely different. First, we will eliminate no bid contracts. I think that is absolutely necessary if we're to truly have a transparent government. But in addition to that, everything we do, it'll be a complete transparent process. We will post it online, much like we did with the Memphis Police Department Transparency Portal, much like we do with the way that we work on the Memphis City Council. All our financials are public, because we understand one thing: if we truly want to get to a place when people feel inclined to participate in the political process, we need to be open and transparent in all of our affairs. Thank you.
Dr. Atwater.
If I become governor, what I would do first, the first thing, day one, I would attack political and judicial corruption. If we do not attack the corruption that's going on in the state of Tennessee, then we're not going to move forward. I don't care, city council, county commissioner, mayors, we have to address political corruption. So the first thing I would do as governor, I would administer a forensic investigation. on all 95 counties, so we can see where the money went as far as federal funding, PPP dollars, and a host of other funding. So I'm all for launching a political and judicial investigation. That's where we'll start. And then I would attack the tax incentives, where to large corporations, I would like to see those dollars going back to the poor community, underserved community.
Thank you. Dr. Martin?
We absolutely have to have transparency in government. And, my administration will stand in contrast to Governor Bill Lee's, which has really been scary when it comes to transparency. I mean, let's talk about the no-bid contracts. I stand with Senator and congressional candidate Heidi Campbell that we need an investigation to follow the money, find out what happened with all that COVID money. And, look, there could be another emergency in the future that requires a no-bid contract. But the way you create transparency in that situation is that you involve the other side. You bring in people, you extra eyes, people who can watch the money move, and that's how you increase transparency. I'd also like to say that, let's look at the voucher bill, right? The feds have been in the General Assembly knocking on doors and talking to folks because of the way that deal went down. So we absolutely have to cut out corruption. We have to be transparent in our meetings. We have to be transparent when we spend money. And earn the trust of our citizens.
All right, candidates. I'm going to start with you this time, Dr. Martin, and
All
then
right.
Dr. Atwater, and not Dr. but Councilman Smiley. What is one law or policy that you think Governor Lee and the legislature do right, and how can you make it better?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just recently, Governor Lee signed a bill that sort of piggybacks on our last issue, where he increased transparency with nonprofits with their political contributions. I think that's a great thing. We need to know, again, follow the money, who is donating to whom, and if that affects how they vote. And so I think that's a great idea, and I'd be willing to consider more campaign finance reform to increase the transparency. Because I can tell you, fundraising is really hard, especially for Democrats in the state of Tennessee right now. Like, I'm really proud of all the work that we've done and all the success that we've had. But it's a lot easier on the other side. I think transparency would be important for everyone.
Dr. Atwater?
I think the only bill that I would agree with Governor Bill Lee is the bill he signed to give Tennessee State University $250 million in his proposed budget. But also, with that said, I think he still owes TSU $500 million. And that should be given before August the 4th.
Councilman Smiley?
Well, I find it hard to agree with anything this current administration has done. I'm just going to be honest with you about that. But I think the only thing that they did get right, and they still messed up there, is providing more funding for education. We increased the funding some, but we're still among the lowest funding states as it relates to education. So what I would do is add more funding, make sure that teachers are paid more, make sure that our children have all the resources they need so they can scale up and get the education they truly deserve.
Candidates, thank you so much. We're now going to move so we can have enough time before you give your closing remarks. We're going to move to the audience questions now. All right, audience, you ready? You're about to have your voice here. 60 seconds for you all to answer these questions. And we will start with you, Dr. Martin, and then go down the row. How will you get and retain teachers in the state of Tennessee?
That's fantastic. We know we need to hire about 11,000 more at least to meet the state requirements. And part of what we need to do is support our teachers with wraparound services, because right now we're asking them to be counselors, we're asking them to be social workers, we're asking them to be potentially security guards, we're asking them to teach our kids reading, writing, arithmetic. So we need to give them the wraparound services they need in the classroom so they can focus on what they are trained to do, and that's teach reading, writing, and arithmetic among the best in the country. And we need to pay them a wage that is reflective of how hard they work.
Dr. Atwater?
What I would do first is put the respect back in the classroom for the teachers. Also, I would implement a program in high school and try to recruit students to go to the education system.
Councilman Smiley?
I recently visited Houston County, and I had a conversation with a young lady named Melanie. She's a teacher by trade, and she always thought that she would be one of those teachers that worked 40 years and then retire. But this administration has devastated her. The only thing she's wondering now is how quick she can retire. And I tell people everywhere I go that the very first thing we need to do is we need to give teachers and start paying teachers a salary commensurate with their work. But the problem we have now is TISA. There's no mandate in this current funding formula that requires teachers to be paid a salary. Significant. We need to amend this current formula. But in addition to that, we have to start respecting them. We have to start trusting our teachers to do the one thing that they chose to do with their life, which is to teach our young people. We have an opportunity this upcoming election to make history. And not the history you're thinking about, but make history and start paying teachers. Start treating them with respect and making sure they have the resources so they can do everything they need to do so that our young people have the ability to scale up.
Thank you. And we will start, we're going back down this way. Councilman Smiley, we will begin with you. What are your views on the housing crisis and affordable housing, especially since minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour?
Well, first we just need to start here. We need to establish a living wage in the state of Tennessee. I think that's point blank, period. The state of Tennessee has the 4th lowest median income in the country. That's problematic for a lot of people who call Tennessee home. But how do we address affordable housing? Well, the great thing for everyone here is actually understand what it's like to change policies so that we can give people affordable housing. We know that big developers coming knocking in on every community and oftentimes pricing us out. But a lot of times when developers come into our community, they ask for public incentives. But what government should start doing, when they ask for those public incentives, we write in provisions that require, that mandate that they have a percentage of their homes be affordable for every person that calls Tennessee home. And that's what we'll do across this state.
Dr. Atwater.
As I listen to the rhetoric, I am the only person on this panel who have serviced 10,000 homeless people. I'm the only person who have fought for affordable houses. I sued the city, the county, the state, and Governor Bill Lee for $20 billion to fight for people to have decent homes to live in. In the state of Tennessee and Memphis, our youth Memphis is short 30,000 homes. So therefore, where are they going? I think that political leaders should stop playing games with people's lives and put money, allocate money back to people so they can afford to buy homes again. Through the HUD program, Community Block Grant program. It's easy to talk about what we should do, but I'm a proven record of what I have done for the people.
Dr. Martin.
So if we want to help people get into houses, we need to do a couple of things. First of all, we need to fight for a fair wage, because the $7.25 now is worth a lot less than the $7.25 before we got eaten up with all this inflation. So that's got to be part of the solution. The other thing we need to do is to use our legislature to work against private equity firms that are coming in and buying up properties, buying up big plots of land and overpricing those houses for profit. Because you know who suffers? Our communities suffer. You know, and the other thing I think we need to do is that we need to focus on our social safety net. Why did it take Governor Bill Lee to be in an election year to finally give people a little grocery tax break? Why did he take an election year for him to release some TANF funds, temporary assistance for needy families? Why did it take an election year for him to finally start caring about the least among us? Y'all, we need to work to take care of one another. And that's what we're going to do when I'm governor.
Dr. Atwater, we're going to begin with you. Dr. Martin, you'll be second. Councilman Smiley, you'll be third. And again, 60 seconds. What and how will you change the critical race theory legislation that has been put in place that will devastate the already small teaching pool? Dr. Atwater.
What I first would do, as the governor, I would go back and restore the CRT programs in the universities, starting with UT and University of Memphis. Governor Lee made those programs obsolete. UT Knox was supposed to have a CTR program. He deleted that program and removed the money. Then University of Memphis was supposed to have a CRT program. He deleted the program and removed the money. I would go back and install those programs into universities so people can learn about racial disparities, because we need to start somewhere, and the university is a good place to start.
So I had a chance to meet with a teacher who was fired over in East Tennessee for asking his students to think about race. And wow, it's really disturbing. I mean, we need to be having conversations about race, ethnicity, and racism in our public schools, because look, racism is part of our past, it's part of our present, and if we don't want it to be as a part of our future, we need to talk about it, and we need to not ignore it. And look, what Governor Bill Lee has done with these divisive topics bills and these bills designed to control, what happens in public schools is another attack on marginalized communities. We've seen it with our LGBTQ plus community. We've seen it with our immigrant communities, and it needs to stop. That is not who we are.
This General Assembly and Governor Bill Lee, we spent a lot of time talking about attacks on marginalized communities. It's more than just attack. They're attempting to eradicate the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They're attempting to whitewash history. And if we're unwilling to have those difficult conversations, that says a lot about us as a society. We have to be willing to have conversations with everyone, have those difficult conversations, but ultimately move our communities forward. This General Assembly is attempting to move us backwards. And to be honest with you, I'd be damned if I allow that to happen again. We need someone with the courage to move us forward, the courage to speak truth to power, but the skill set and the knowledge to make sure that laws are no longer working against our communities, but bringing us together. And that's what my administration will be about.
Candidates, we have time for just one more audience question before we move into our closing statements. Dr. Martin, we will begin with you, Councilman Smiley, and Dr. Atwater. This question: what are your plans for the expansion of renewable sources of energy in Tennessee?
Yeah, we absolutely need to be investing in renewables. Let me tell you a quick story in 50 seconds or less. We were up in Northwest Tennessee, Lake County, 120,000 acres, 80,000 of which are cultivated. As we're driving in for this meeting with the mayor, I'm seeing little solar panels dotting the farms as we're driving in. So I asked him, I'm like, tell me what's going on here. They applied for a grant. And so the farmers were able to get solar on their barns. They started making a little money after 2 or 3 years, and they were getting free electric in their barns. So they got excited. So the community purchased over 2,000 acres of land, and then a solar farm came in. And with the property taxes that solar farm company paid to the county, they were able to build a new school with cash. And then in that school, they're teaching kids high-tech jobs, how to go out and manage that solar farm. That is leadership. That is what green energy can do for our communities. That's why we need to fight for it.
Absolutely. We all know that greenhouse gases are on the rise. Carbon emissions are on the rise. But our goal is to get to the point in which we reach drawdown. That's the point in which greenhouse gases start to significantly increase in our communities. How do we do that? We invest in renewable energy, like we suggested. We invest in solar vehicles, electric cars. But in addition to that, we also need to make sure we're investing in green infrastructure, because what we want is an environment in which that our grandchildren and our children's children have the ability to live in a community that's free from pollution, live in a community in which the climate is not significantly increasing. And what my administration will prioritize is to make sure that energy is clean, energy is renewable, and we stop allowing fossil fuel companies to tell us what to do.
Candidates, that wraps up our question and oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
That's okay.
Please forgive me. You get an extra 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay,
I'm
good.
just playing. 60 seconds.
Actually, I don't have to speak on what I'm going to do as a governor. Let me speak on what I have done as a citizen. I owned a 100-acre farm, and that farm was operated with solar panels and windmills. That's helping with the renewable energy. I also own a electric car, and I purchased 4 electric cars for 4 senior citizens in this community. I also repaired 5 senior citizen roof and put solar panels on top of the roof. Now, what we need is a plan to stop pipelines from going into different neighborhoods. I was on that committee to fight with MCAP to stop pipelines from going through a community. So we need active action plans to do that, and not just about talking. I listen at my opponents here, and they have good theory, but I have practical theories that I have done, and I have proven that works in the community.
I got everybody this time, right? Everybody, we're good. Okay. Now we are done with our question and answer portion of tonight's debate. We're going to walk now into you all offering your closing remarks. We are going to go in the order of Dr. Martin, Dr. Atwater, and Councilman Smiley. And you will have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
All right. First of all, thank you all again for this experience. The debate is lively. I think we sharpen each other, and I think that we're going to need those skills when we go to beat Governor Bill Lee. Look, here's the closing argument. We need 400,000 more votes. We need to do that by having a network, having a vision, and having people in the General Assembly who are familiar with how state government works, working with us to get it done. And I'm so proud that we've earned so many endorsements from across the state at the state level, including the chairman of the Democratic Caucus, Vincent Dixie. I'm proud that we've earned the support of the chairman of the Black Caucus, Representative Antonio Parkinson. I'm proud that we've earned the support of legislators from all three grand divisions. So we're going to take this support. We're going to take what we learned about messaging from our tour. We're going to take the network that we've built in all 95 counties, and we're going to go out and beat Governor Bill Lee. We need your help to get it done, so please be sure and vote. Thank you.
I want to be a boots on the ground governor. I want to be a governor that places people back into politics. And therefore, I'm not interested in any endorsement. I want the people to endorse me by what I have done for them for 25 years. I ask for your vote. I am the people's governor. I have a proven record of what I can do for the community. I am bold, unbought, unbossed, and uncompromised. Thank you for your vote.
I could spend all day and tell you that I've received more endorsements than any other candidate on the stage, because that would be true. But what I'm going to talk about is a better Tennessee. Imagine a Tennessee that affirms you no matter how you identify who you love. Imagine the Tennessee that supports you no matter which part of the state that you call home. Imagine the Tennessee that supports small businesses and minority and women business owners. That's the Tennessee we're fighting for. But the question before us is, who can get us there? I'm the only person on the stage that has a foundational understanding of law. The others, they have to pick up a book and call someone and ask them how to get things done. I'm the only person on the stage that has a history, a proven track record working with Republican politicians and getting meaningful legislation done. But in addition to that, we have a choice to make. We can lose big by doing what we've always done, or we can give ourselves a real shot at success by giving the non-voting base an opportunity to get excited about this upcoming election. And Councilman J.B. Smiley Jr., I'm the only candidate that can do that. Thank you all so much. Visit votejbsmiley.com.
Thank you to the candidates. And for a quick housekeeping note, a reminder to our audience to go to the poll. Use the QR code on the paper you were given. Visit the poll before it closes here in 2 minutes. Who do you believe won the debate tonight?
I also just want to say one thing.
Jump on in,
I want to challenge everybody in here. One time each day, ask somebody you come across in your day if they're registered to vote, and send them to vote.org. Just one person at the coffee shop, McDonald's, wherever. Ask them if they're registered to vote.
I'm always yelling, jump on in there. All right. Again, thank you to the candidates. Thank you to the audience, those that are watching, those that are present. Thank you to my amazing co-moderators, to Justin Canoe of the Tennessee Holler, and to Holly McCall of the Tennessee Outlook. Thank you all so much. I'm pretty sure you can hear and learn more about tonight's debate on their platform, so be sure to visit them. And of course, a very special thank you to the Tennessee Democratic Party for hosting tonight's event and for having us. And for everyone, have a good night.
Thank you, Councilman. Enjoyed it.